Welcome to WrestleHook. My name is Brendan, and I'm joined today by my co-host Girard to talk about the best wrestlers of both the men's and women's division across this entire year. Gerard, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. And I'm excited to talk about some great talents from this year that have put on some great matches. So let's get to it. Well,
Yeah.
who do you have at the top of yours, and where do you want to start? Do you want to go with men's or women's first?
Let's do men's first, and then we'll do like rank in descending order. So we'll start with our third best of the year, go to
Hmm.
second, and then first. So before I get into my top three, I want to give an honorable mention because this person narrowly missed the list, but I'm not sure if this is on lots of people's list this year. But when I was looking through the matches of this year, it was hard for me to like not mention them, and that is our world heavyweight champion Gunther. Now, the reason I bring him up is because lately I feel like there's been chirping here and there, thinking, oh, some of this run has been underwhelming, but to me, it has more to do with the choices of opponents and the you know, I'm not sure if he needed that arc that he just completed, where he remembered that he's great because he's like one of the best wrestlers, technically, physically, that exist. But I do think actually it led to, or aside from just that little arc that they did at the end of the year, he had a list of really good matches. I mean, the Sammy match was one of the most memorable at WrestleMania to me. I thought the Randy Orton match was really good. At that King of the Ring finals. The Priest match at SummerSlam was good from the in crowd perspective. I haven't watched it back, but it was a good time. It was physical. I felt like it was one of Priest's more like big moments in his career so far, and it's a lot because of Gunther. And then he had a great match with Sheamus on a Raw. He had a great match with Cody. Like I just think he's so consistent that he maybe not have some of the highs as some of the other wrestlers this year, just because of the circumstances. But I think as far as consistency goes, if he's going on TV, it's a great match. Like one recently that I thought of was the Dom Mysterio squash. Like that turned into a really, really, really fun like 6 minute match. So there's no one better, I think, like at a consistent basis than Gunther. Sometimes, I think it can be tough for him to translate his style to like TV matches, but that Dom one to me was like really a great example of like you know at his best what he is as a TV champion. So, do you have any thoughts about Gunther's year so far? Any of those matches in particular stick out to you?
No, I fully agree with everything you've said about Gunther, and sadly, homie never even made my list.
Yeah.
Not even once, because I mean, and you said nobody is more consistent than Gunther. Well, hey, homie, my honorable mention would beg to differ because Cody Rhodes is my honorable
Mm,
mention because
okay.
he will not be making the list of my top three either. But Cody, from start of the year, from the Rumble all the way through to the end, even kicking off the year, all the way through his building his program up with the bloodline, being consistent with everybody he's worked with on the mic,
Hmm.
in the ring, all the appearances and the mess he's been doing. To be able to corks your way into this tag match with The Rock and now a future program with The Rock, where The Rock's last words wasn't to his cousin, it was to you. Like, technically, The Rock, I don't think has spoken since.
True.
Like, since that Raw after WrestleMania, so, like, his last words were literally left on you.
Hmm.
Like, Cody has not only delivered, shown how he could stay over, when I can tell you at WrestleMania 39, being there live, when he lost, I was like, "Okay, I don't know who's gonna be the one to beat Roman, but I think that was Cody's moment." I don't think if we try to wait until next year's WrestleMania, this is gonna hold the same energy. It's gonna have the same value. The chase was there. Can the story be rebuilt up over another year again? Psh, made a fool out of me. What a show, what a spectacle WrestleMania 40 was, with the combined effort of making it your own Infinity War Endgame style ending, where now
Hmm.
WrestleMania 39 was Infinity War, and instead of just rushing out in 2 hours. It's a whole year to build that story back up. Having him run back-to-back Royal Rumbles and do that, having to overcome backstage politicking and all the other nonsense to get to where he did and finish the story, and to then not only keep that momentum going past WrestleMania through his championship reign, where only now where you have a storyline with a very credible heel and a lot of the words that he's saying that's starting to wane some of Cody's reactions, in my opinion. Cody has consistently been strong, not only reaction wise in the ring with everybody. Like one of my candidates for match of the year came from Cody, and I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah, and
you deliver.
you have to like also consider with Cody like it's an uphill battle to me when you have, especially with the championship reign that he has, is that a lot of his matches that he's going into at these pay per views, because of the thing with The Rock like looming over next year's WrestleMania, it's really hard to buy into him actually losing matches. Yet he still has been able to put on like some of my favorite matches of the year. One of those being the AJ Styles match at France. I thought that might have been WWE's match of the year, from my perspective, and that can only happen when you have someone that's like ready to take the ball and like as popular as Cody, but also he can have the great matches. I mean, the Kevin Owens one at Bash in Berlin, I think I was higher on it than a lot of people, but I really really loved that match. And obviously, it's a little unfortunate for him that just as in terms of this conversation, that the Kevin Owens like Saturday night's main event match was more of a angle to get to the third one rather than like the conclusive one, because I think that match is going to be phenomenal as well. So he's got a really good case. I also made note of the Gunther match that he had, as I did for Gunther, and then the Roman match as well at Mania. I didn't enjoy the overall match as much as I did the year before, but this one I was watching it more like I was watching like the Lions in the playoffs than the way I was like than like watching it for a star rating or trying to like see how great it stacks up compared to others. I was just rooting Cody to win. I just like, and it's very rare that I feel like that about like wrestlers or matches, but I did feel like that about Cody, and for that reason, Cody's at number 3 on my list.
Okay. Okay. Any other additional standout matches that you want to highlight from this year? Any TV matches that you want to highlight from this year? I think that Gable match that he had was pretty solid
The Gable match
recently
was
on
fun.
SmackDown. So
I actually thought the Solo Sikoa cage match on SmackDown was like way over delivered, because I'm gonna be honest, the SummerSlam match was complete dud to me. I thought that was really bad, and it was all built for a post match thing that just it just had no no sauce left. And I was there, I was ready for the return, but that to me was not one of the highlights. Um, Another one I didn't enjoy too much was the Logan Paul match, but that's just more because I just you know I'm cool on Logan Paul challenging for world titles, and I hope that doesn't happen too often this year, because you can do the celebrity thing, you can do it, and he's maybe gone a little bit beyond the celebrity thing, but I don't need him challenging for world titles, and that was I didn't think that needed to be a Cody match, but Cody had a great year, so I have him at number 3. Girard, I know so you had only gone into an honorable mention so far, but who do you have at your number 3?
you just had me having to take a breath on the Logan Paul thing. I'm like, oh, I thought he was gonna retire, which I didn't think that was gonna be his
No,
way out of wrestling was actually that.
he's a liar.
I really didn't, but I don't know. I think he's gonna really be used as like a celebrity eye to the wrestling
Which
world,
is
and
fine, just not challenging for the world title. Like, you don't need why is that the way you I
I
know.
hope it doesn't. I don't think we get back to that for a while. I don't think we
Maybe, but the
he
one they teased at the Netflix thing was the Gunther match. I was like, why? Why? I don't know. Anyways,
I
what you got
mean,
at
at
3?
Elimination Chamber, okay, maybe. Like, don't waste my time anywhere else. But like, also, I don't have Gunther having that belt by it. So like,
We'll
I
see.
don't know.
We'll see.
But my number 3, homie, my number 3 is gonna be Bow, 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 bow. Swerve, 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 Swerve Strickland, man. For me, I had to put Swerve, and this was a personal choice. It was Swerve was going to be my honorable mention, and I said, nah, for the
Bump
culture,
him
I,
up.
I, I gotta, I gotta move Swerve up for the culture because being there live for his title win, love that. I love the Dynamite match with him and Hangman, where the it was a time limit draw right as he hits big pressure, and the count's being like administered for 3 and
Hmm.
time just runs out. I love that performance. I love the triple threat match and the way they played with my emotions in that match. I loved his match with Will at Forbidden Door. Like that was the only thing that made me regret not being at this year's Forbidden Door. I was at the first one, I was at the second one. I regretted being at the third one just for that main event alone of him and Will.
Hmm.
And so I wish I was there for that match because I think that match was crazy and so much fun. And so I lean into Swerve. I look at his match with Bryan at All In and the spectacle that was. I thought that was such a great match. And I for me, I think he's even recovered through the Hangman feud and having taken that L in the lights out match, the lights out steel cage match. That was a crazy wild performance for Swerve. And so then to come back and then do his build up, have his that good match with Shelton Benjamin, to then turn around and have a good match with a quick, strong effort to put over Lashley, but not at the same time putting on his own good showing for himself as well in that match. Swerve has been my guy.
Yeah.
The the most dangerous man in AEW.
Look at that. Heck of a performance there. Um, so I agree with you so much so that I have Swerve as my number two. So,
Hey.
like, I mean, all the things you said, he genuinely like. As much as he's been featured, I think he should be featured even more. I think he's their best babyface. I think he's probably their most one of their most over probably but at this point their most over babyface. He is the biggest star they have, and on one hand, I'm glad that he's doing this stuff with the Hurt Syndicate because I think that stuff is much higher quality than if you were challenging for the world title, with all that business. So I, on one hand, like I said, I think he should be featured even more, but at the same time, I'm glad he's working with Bobby because even that Bobby Lashley match, which was so different than the rest of his matches that you already mentioned, like that just shows you the range of the performer that he is, and that like he can kind of take on any role he needs to. But I think he should be in the role of top babyface. I'd make him like he had a good run with the title. Like the way he portrayed that like ruthless heel against Danielson in that All In main event. Like that was one of my most memorable matches of the year. Not just for the Danielson performance, but also for Source performance in that match. Like I thought that was fantastic. And then obviously the Ospreay match was a huge performance as well. So lots of standout performances from Swerve. Being there with you to see his title win was fun. But I just think you considering not just the big matches he's had, he's also been involved in some big angles, including his childhood home being burned down. So heck of a year for Swerve. It's also like when you just consider the ascent that he's had. Last year was obviously it looked like he was on the way to this level of stardom, but he wasn't there yet, and it was hard to. You didn't want to celebrate too early, right? You didn't want to get too excited about it. You didn't want to smell the roses um, before he finally was featured as the top guy, and he had a great run with it. When he won the title, people thought this is just going to be a traditional reign, like because Ospreay was in the wings, and obviously they went a way different direction with that. But he still had a memorable reign, and he still had so many memorable moments. He's my number two for Wrestle of the Year.
Okay. That's that's a strong number 2. And I mean, my number 2 beat your number 2 at All In, so
Go
because
ahead.
it's Bryan Danielson, man. I what a year for the Dragon. What a way to go out. What a way to just cap things off. He gave me one of the best experiences I've had live, and we can talk about that later on too, but Brian has not missed when it comes to I might talk all the crap about Jack Perry being in that all out main event, but on the other side of that main event, who was keeping me in my seat, who made me not want to walk out the building, who had me all in, if you will, pun intended, Brian Danielson. There was a moment in the match, he was like, "Come on, come on!" He reached out to the crowd.
That was to
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
you're right. I need to be excited.
That it's me.
Yes, that man knows how to get your emotions just ramped into a match. He knows how to just make you feel something. And as a live performer, as a man who knows how to tell a story in a ring, whether I can see you barely with looking over everybody's head, if I can see you well through the ring, he can always tell a great story. And him and Osprey this year, him and Swerve this year, him and Zack Sabre this year. I was growing to like what him and Mox did. I just not a fan of the finish. Just
Yeah.
not a fan of the finish. But nonetheless, him as a wrestler, him as a storyteller, his performance through the Owen, it's Brian for me, man. This year, for my number 2, is definitely Brian. Like I loved what I got out of him. I loved his final year, and I wish it. I could always talk about what I wish changed this year out of his matches and whatnot. But what we got out of a man who was injured now whatever the actual truth is, that whatever percentage he was at health wise, still not 100%, and that's the truth. And this man was able to give us what he gave us this year.
Yeah.
Phenomenal for me. So
Yeah. And I think if I were to like actually truly do a ranking of mine, like through the top five, he would have been in my number four, like just outside my top three. I only wanted to shout Gunther because I knew you were going to mention Danielson. I just knew you had to mention Danielson. So, um, with that being said, I just have one wrestler left.
hey.
And I think we're clearly on the same page here, right? Um, this year for and Will Ospreay is probably always going to be a contender for these type of awards. But when you consider the way that he came into AEW, and when he came in, you know, people were there's lots of chatter. They're like, you know, are they going to utilize this guy as the top? Like, are his promos good enough? Is he good enough on the live mic? Like, how does he slot in? And I think it was clear from the first moment, the first promo, once he fully signed with AEW, that he's going to be able to take that mantle. And it was so much so that the idea of Swerve winning sounded crazy at the time because we're thinking this guy, with the performances he's putting on, he needs to be the champ, right? And they didn't do that. They went a different way. But when you consider, I mean, AEW Dynasty, Ospreay and Danielson, we'll get to that match in a future video. That match was absolutely phenomenal. One of my very favorites of the year. He had a great match with Swerve, and he the rumor mill and the reporting says that he actually is the one that went to Tony and said, "Hey, look, people are talking about me, like saying that Swerve's the transitional champion. I want to put him over at Forbidden Door," and he did that. It was a great match, very interesting, a great performance. He had a match with Takeshita, not to forget. Earlier in the year,
Revolution.
Revolution, great match, one of my favorites of Takeshita's career, and my list of Ospreys is just growing so much that it's hard to keep my rankings these days. He had a match with Pac at All Out.
Live. They're live for
Was
it. I
absolutely
love live.
phenomenal. The Wrestle Dream triple threat. I mean, I look. you took him out of the match, and the Ricochet Takeshita match didn't quite hit like I thought it would. Will's the secret sauce. That match, I mean, Will just elevates everyone like to the top of their game. And then lastly, the Kyle Fletcher match at the most recent pay per view, one of like the most like impressive to me. Like I was just blown away by Kyle Fletcher in that match. But Will's just had a year that like I mentioned all these other guys at 2, 3, 4 honorable mentions. It wasn't even that hard for me to pick this Girard. Was it hard for you to decide on your number one?
No. I almost did Danielson just for the sake of it being his last year, but I was like, nah, homie, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. It's not you because Will has never missed for me live. Period. Orange Cassidy, Omega, not Swerve, Danielson, literally, Pac. Like this man does not miss for me. He has not missed, not one time. This man is a great performer. I we gonna talk. This man is this it's number one. He's just number
yeah,
one. I have more to say, but we still got one more match this year, homie. Keep that in mind. There's one more match. Like they're still at World's End. What will he make it to the end of the C2? Will he be in that match?
yeah.
Will he be in
That's
another
crazy.
match?
Yeah,
And if he's in another match, the field's even wider for what that could be. So
yeah,
like this man, and just give him one person, like give him two, and the man goes crazy. Give him three, and we might have something even wilder. But we already got a fatal four way on that show.
yeah.
But this man is crazy. That man's great. It's Will Ospreay. I think we need to at a certain point. He's got to evolve his game a little bit more because I think we are going to run ragged of his style at one point. It will run into the wall because we see him way more often. That's something I did think about because, like, when I saw him at Forbidden Door with Orange Cassidy, we didn't see him that often in AEW like that. So, with him being on a national television, especially him running through the C2 like this, we're getting a we're getting a lot more of Osprey. So I just hope we get an evolution of him in his game as well.
Yeah,
In
and
the Osprey style match, but hey.
right, and there were some examples too of matches that didn't quite hit as much for me. Like for example, the MJF match. I
Oh,
forgot about it completely. I was just looking at a list of his matches, and they weren't. He didn't bat 1,000. No one's gonna do that. But just the caliber of like top tier matches of the year, it's just impossible to outdo Osprey in that way. So, with that being said,
oh.
we are 23 minutes in, so this is gonna be the end of this video. But if you want to hear our women's wrestlers of the year, click the video in the description. It'll be the next video coming out. So if you're watching this, in real time, stay tuned. Thank you for listening. If you're hooked on wrestling, this is the place to be. Peace.
Peace out.